Today, I'm flying with Norwegian from Bergen to London Gatwick in a Boeing 737-800. And for about the last 10 years, Norwegian has been my favourite budget airline due to things like free Wi-Fi and not copying airlines like Ryanair with extremely punitive extra fees. But a lot has changed in the last 10 years, and Norwegian aren't what they once were, so let's see if it's still worth flying with them. So welcome to Bergen Airport, where we're greeted by an impressive departure hall. Completed in 2017, it's a very modern building and pretty impressive for a relatively small airport, which only serves about 6.5 million passengers a year, making it the second busiest in Norway. Interestingly, Norway's population is only 5.5 million in the first place, so this airport serves more people than the country's entire population. And Oslo Airport serves even more, 26.5 million passengers, about 5 times the whole population. Despite a massive queue, security was quick, and here we are in the main terminal area. Very spacious with lots of natural light and good views. As I said earlier, this terminal was completed in 2017 to boost the airport's capacity and mostly replace the old terminal. Though the two buildings are still connected and non-Schengen flights are from the old building, but the old building is much worse. So if you find yourself in Bergen Airport, I suggest you stay in the new terminal area for as long as possible before heading to your gate in the old terminal building. It's a quick walk, and the new building is so much nicer with better shops and food places too. Also, I should mention that in 2023, Norwegian acquired the small regional Norwegian airline Widerøe, which makes it so that the majority of flights at this airport fall under the Norwegian umbrella. At some point, I want to give them a go, but they're quite expensive and mostly only fly domestically in Norway. So again, for comparison, here's the new terminal with its big windows and natural light, and they even have a Joe and the Juice. And here's the old terminal, dim, crowded, and miserable. And whilst the upgraded main terminal area at Bergen is great, the non-Schengen area is not up to scratch. It's a tiny area with limited seating, and there was another Jet 2 flight leaving at the same time as ours, making it very overcrowded. This is what boarding for our flight looked like, with no boarding groups called or anything, not even an orderly queue. Just everybody pushing forward at once to try and get to the front. So whilst this is more of a Bergen Airport issue than a Norwegian issue, it did still negatively affect the experience. Now before we head on board, here's the route map and stats for today's flight. We would get a scenic view of some Norwegian fjords and mountains as we headed south over the North Sea, before looping around the south of England and approaching Gatwick from the west, landing just a few minutes behind schedule. And now it's time to board our 9-year-old Boeing 737-800 with 186 seats and a free layout. They have 62 of these aircraft, plus 25 of the newer 737 MAX variants, and if you include the new Widerøe fleet, then that makes it about the 10th largest airline in Europe. So here's my seat, 6A, and I would say the Norwegian seat is just average in terms of comfort, but legroom is actually quite good for a budget airline, and weirdly, according to Aerolopa at least, is better on the left-hand side with 31 inches of seat pitch, compared to the right side with 30 inches of seat pitch. Both of those are better than the 28 inches you see on some competitors though. And I also find the leather seat quite comfortable for short-haul flights, though they do feel a bit worn out. And no headrest of course, because that would be too fancy. There's a menu too with all the standard stuff, so nothing too exciting, and the prices are quite high, so maybe bring your own food. And at the back of that is a duty-free section too. We will now perform a safety demonstration and ask for your complete attention. Earlier in the video, I mentioned despite being a budget airline, Norwegian don't penny pinch as much as other competitors. A good example of that is that you don't have to pay to check in at the airport, which we did today. Whilst Ryanair, for example, would charge you €55 per person to do that. Of course, you do still pay for the standard stuff like seat selection and priority boarding, but it's not that expensive. On this flight, it costs £18 for my seat, 6A, which isn't bad considering it's near the front, and it also costs a relatively cheap £17.90 for an overhead bag and priority boarding, which again is cheaper than Ryanair or Wizz Air. Of course, as you saw earlier though, priority boarding was pretty pointless on this flight as it was a free-for-all, but the point still stands. Now get ready for a wet, but still scenic takeoff out of Bergen. One of my favourite things about Norwegian is that they've had free in-flight Wi-Fi since 2011. Or at least I thought that was the case, but turns out they started charging for it a few years ago. You only get 15 minutes for free, then it's €5.99 for 60 minutes or €9.99 for unlimited. Those prices are actually slightly lower than average, but I was still disappointed as 10 years ago in 2015 I fondly remember being able to watch YouTube videos the whole flight, but now it seems they've gone backwards. It wouldn't be so bad if they went straight from no Wi-Fi at all to charging a fee when it was introduced, but the fact that they had this cool modern feature back in 2011 and decided to start charging for it, whilst most airlines these days are doing the opposite and making Wi-Fi free, is a massive disappointment. So now, rant about the Wi-Fi over, here's the landing into London Gatwick. Also, if you look over there, it's the Top Gear test track with an old British Airways 747 parked on it.
Be careful when opening the overhead bins and remember to take all your personal belongings with you. Smoking and the use of electronic cigarettes is not permitted.
So now that we've arrived, it's time to share my final thoughts. And as far as budget airlines go, I still think Norwegian are pretty good, and they hold a special place in my heart as they're the first airline I ever flew by myself. The prices are reasonable, and they aren't as aggressive as the likes of Ryanair and Wizz Air when it comes to extra fees. Legroom was also quite good, despite the seats feeling pretty worn out, but I can't forgive them for introducing a fee for the Wi-Fi when it had been free for so many years before. So thanks to that, and the fact that they're still a budget airline, my overall score isn't great, and I'm going to lower them to a 5 out of 10 on my airline tier list, as I don't believe they deserve a 6 out of 10 anymore. But I should still note that's still the highest scoring budget airline on my list, so they can still be proud of that at least. Now for my next video, I'll be branching out and reviewing a train trip from Budapest to Vienna. Then after that, I'll be heading to the USA, reviewing British Airways Business Class, JetBlue, United, Hawaiian and Virgin Atlantic, plus a bunch of hotels along the way, including the Mandalay Bay and Royal Hawaiian. So please like and subscribe if you want to see that, and thanks for watching, and goodbye.